Welcome to the British Strength Show, the only show hosted by the only 3 British citizens ever to be ordained as starting strength coaches. We will talk about strength training and lifting and anything you want to know to get strong. I am Jack Bissett. That is Carl Raghavan. That is Byron Johnston. Welcome to the show. And we are going to start by telling you about us. Who are we? How did we get into this? How did we become starting strength coaches? And we will start with Carl Raghavan because he's been doing this longer than, quite frankly, anyone else. Yeah.
Longer than there has
Carl,
been water.
Give us the law.
Oh boy. So it depends how far back you want to go. So basically, I've been a personal trainer for 20 years. I've been in this business for 2 decades. I guess the reason I wanted to lift weights, get bigger and stronger is because I got bullied at a young age at school. You know, real bullying, not this kind of cyber bollocks. Like, I got really bullied, and I always had an affinity to sports, and I think that was kind of the thing. After school, and then I was a college dropout, didn't go to university and whatever. So it was kind of like the what now effect. Like, what am I going to do with myself? My sister, at the time, she was going to Holmes Place. Holmes Place doesn't even exist anymore, but it's like a gym just like David Lloyd. It's kind of like that. And they had a magazine, and it had an advert for Premier Personal Training to do a course, a 3-month course. The course had nutrition, sports massage, and personal training. I didn't think anything of it. I was kind of bouncing between jobs after I dropped out of school. And I went there, saw the facility in Finsbury Park or somewhere there. And I just kind of was like, wow, this is actually kind of cool. But at the time, I was just like, training in a gym is stupid, because I always thought real sports, and if you want to be into fitness stuff, you do actual sport, like being in a gym and lifting on machines and weights. It just didn't feel like a complete thing. And I also had a martial arts background of doing like different things like karate and silat. And as a youngster as well, I just got into loads of different sports. And yeah, so basically, fast forward, being a personal trainer, I had a very good Swedish friend of mine who I'm still in touch with, called Nick. He noticed that the way I coached people or personal trained people, he saw I had an affinity to like making my clients lift with good technique. And he handed me the 2nd edition book, and he was like, I think this book is for you. And I read that first chapter of like why strength. And after martial arts, I didn't really understand what the compass was, like where training in the gym was kind of guiding you. And then when you read that chapter, why strength, I was like, that's what it is. It's strength training. I'm trying to make people like get better at lifting weights in a very productive, channeled way. And I hadn't looked back since. I obviously read the book. And then I looked on the line and saw that he had a DVD, was studying that. And it was funny watching all the people when I actually finally went to Wichita Falls and being in the gym. I felt like I was in a movie because I had studied that DVD so long, and seeing all the guys, like I met Bobby, who's like the token black guy in the DVD. When we bumped each other in the toilets at Wichita Falls, you know, he's like, hi. I'm like, hi. He felt like proper starstruck about someone like that. So it was just very sweet. And yeah, once I knew that you could become a coach teaching starting strength, I was like, that's my mission. All I care about is becoming a starting strength coach, and nothing was going to get in the way of that. And now it's 11 years. 11 years I've been a starting strength coach. And to me, it is like breathing. It is like taking a sip of water. Like, I can't see myself ever teaching being anything other than that. And it shaped who I am. I met my fiance. I've gained 120 pounds or like 50 kilos of body weight naturally. You know, all my lifts have, you know, gone up. You know, I've just created a life all around starting strength, and obviously writing loads of articles. It's changed me as a person way more than I thought it was going to, professionally and everything else in between, really. So, yeah. Don't know what more you want me to say, but
What about you, Byron?
Okay, so in school, I'd say, athletically average. I've always been of a kind of a tall. I'm 5'11". I've always been of a tall and quite underweight, really lightly built, not particularly muscular. I lean towards like endurance things like cross country running and things like that. Didn't particularly enjoy sports when I was in school. Like I wasn't really drawn to anything, but running was probably the closest thing I got interested in. Fast forward to leaving school and going to my adult life. I'm of us three coaches, I did not go directly into training people in gyms. I didn't find that straight away. I was actually had a life as a musician. I was a professional guitarist for many years, for more than 10 years. I was in the music industry. I had this kind of goal that I wanted to make albums. I wanted to travel internationally and play shows, play as a concert guitar player, try to take that to the highest possible level that it could be taken with my ability level. Get play some famous venues, get to do these kind of things. And while I was on that journey, I realized that I needed a system, physical system, that would enable me to be able to tolerate the kind of time zone changes I was doing and the kind of temperature changes and the kind of really physical aspect of having a life where you're doing flights and I was traveling, 26 weeks a year when I was at my peak of like performance. So every other week I was out. I was not in the UK. I was anywhere but, and I could literally do jobs where I would do a show in, let's say I'd be on location in Singapore and then Alaska the next week. So massive time zone changes. And so I started trying different things in gyms. I've over the course of my like physical past, I tried lots of different systems, even famous ones like P90X that are kind of quite well known. I tried loads of different activities. I consulted with personal trainers. And if I be honest with you, nothing really was that effective. I didn't get out of shape. I didn't get unfit, but I wasn't really achieving anything that I thought I was going to achieve. I didn't really change my body in any significant way. And eventually this situation persisted until I got fed up and I decided to stop all the men's health magazines, all the personal trainers, stopped looking at that and just tried to do my own research and try to find the truth. And what that led me to was basically finding starting strength and hiring my first ever strength coach. So not a personal trainer, someone who just does barbell training. And within about 4 months of doing that process, I had made more progress than the previous 10 years of stuff I'd been doing in gyms. And I started to notice in my travels and in my physical life with what I was doing in the concerts that things were getting easier to move equipment, to change time zones. Like my actual capacity was different and my body literally started to look different. That's what I say. I made more progress in that 4 months than the last 10 years before it. And I realized I'd uncovered a real truth and something that was extremely powerful in that truth. And so this kind of germinated, this little acorn got in and started to germinate into something much, much larger. It ended up being so big that in the end, as my music career was naturally coming to a natural end, as I'd fulfilled my sort of the journey I wanted to have, I knew I was going to go on to something else. And it became really clear to me that I was going to go and train people. I was already talking to so many people about exercise and nutrition and what I was doing. It just became a natural process. Once I'd realized it was going to be me in a gym with coaching, there was no doubt it was like with Carl, it was going to be a starting strength coach. Like there was nothing else I wanted to do. That was the destination. And essentially, what I found was going down that route, going through the rigorous, and I do mean rigorous preparation to do it and to pass it, passing the credential. And now I'm about 3 years or so into being a starting strength coach. I've had the benefit of coaching a lot of different people. I've coached teenagers, I've coached people in their 70s and 80s, everything in between. And just like Carl, I've started doing events where I will travel around to different locations, sometimes in the United Kingdom, sometimes further afield, to lecture in these subjects, coach people, help people out wherever they are. And that's where the journey's led me. And now here I am, on podcasts like this, talking about this experience, what I've achieved with it, and what I help people to achieve. And that's basically me in a nutshell. I started off as a very tall, thin, underweight guy. At my lightest, I'm 5'11" and I weighed about 9 stone 2. Don't even convert that into, Jack's face. Don't even convert that into like pounds or kilos, because it's almost a medical emergency. When people saw me, they thought I was maybe really seriously ill. They were like, "Bro, are you okay?" That was the worst it ever got. And so,
Was that
and now,
due to all the cocaine you were sniffing while you were
massive amounts of
performing?
music industry. I shouldn't laugh about that, but actually, I was actually really on the health kick when I was doing music, so I didn't end up going down the drugs and alcohol route. I actually had a pretty good lifestyle of it, but still, again, not training the right way, not living the right way, not knowing much about training and nutrition. That's where I got myself at one point. And so now I weigh close to 100 kilos. And I just, I've got before and after pictures of that phase of my life. And it's just, I feel like I look and feel completely different. In my 20s, my early 20s, I would get shooting back pain, debilitating. It would come out of nowhere and completely seize me up. Since I started proper training, or even when I didn't really know what I was doing, that back pain has gone away and it has never come back since. So that sort of showed me that this is definitely a powerful system. Training in general is the right thing to do, but training the way we do it is the next level. And that's what I found from my journey. Yeah, guys. Jack, I think it's time for you to tell us a bit about you now.
Well, I'm the newest. I was only qualified within the past year. I kind of share elements of both of your stories. I was bullied in school for being dreadfully weak and skinny, and I was a terrible athlete. Carl, who coaches me, can attest to my athletic prowess. It's really quite impressive. And when I was a teenager, sixth form, I started looking for ways to unskinify myself. So I started going to this filthy bodybuilding gym in an industrial estate in the edge of my town. It was stuffed to the gills with the juiciest dudes you've ever seen in your life. Like, all of the stereotypes about steroids were personified in these people. The tren cough, the roid rage, the back knee. Admittedly, they were all yoked, but it was quite an environment. And of course, I had no idea what I was doing. I was there with a bunch of my nerd friends. We were all skinny, nerdy little dweebs. The bodybuilders used to call us the sausages. And we'd show up in the gym and they'd be like, "Oh, the fucking sausages have showed up again." And you know how it be. Monday was International Chest Day. We'd immediately start to try and max out bench. And then it would be flies and the chest press machine. And none of us had a clue what we were doing. All of us were squatting high. I think we did try deadlifts once, and our version of a deadlift was to squat down basically on top of the bar to try and stand it back up. Hideous. And after months and months of this and sort of no real progress being made, I started to get frustrated and look on Tinternet. And I discovered Uncle Rippy, Uncle Mark, doing some tutorial videos with Brett McKay from The Art of Manliness, and I took those videos and tried to implement them on myself and on my skinny ass dork nerd friends. And that was the beginning, I think, of simultaneously my training journey and my coaching journey. Because at the same time, I was trying to get them to replicate what I saw in those videos. When I came to uni then, I tried to carry that on. I joined the weightlifting club in uni, and by my second year, I was coaching there just on a voluntary basis. And it took off from there. I did chemistry at university. I'm a trained chemist, which is neat, I guess. I don't have a plan to use that degree. I didn't enjoy it. And by the time I came out of uni, I figured I should try doing something I liked before I submitted to the drudgery of the working world. And so I tried to become a personal trainer. And that is really what I've been doing. Once I made that decision, I decided, well, if I'm going to do this, I should go whole hog and I should try to become an SSC. And then a man in Wuhan ate a bat and everything sort of collapsed. I spent, 2.5 years sort of on pause then, doing odd bits of PT, trying to scrape by until gyms properly reopened. And then once the travel restrictions to the US were lifted, I signed up for the prep course, went through the rigorous process that Byron described, and it is heckin' hard. It's real tricky. And then last year, flew out to the States, spent 2 weeks out there, met some real nice people, and went and did my platform evaluation in Wichita Falls. And it was like Carl describes, it was like being starstruck, like hundreds of hours worth of YouTube content, podcasts. I've been watching these people since I were a lad, and to be in a room with them, it was kind of weird. It's like, they're normal people, they're not celebrities, but in my world, they're basically the most famous people on earth. And so, yeah, Rip signed my copy of Starting Strength, and that is a treasured family heirloom as far as I'm concerned now. I will pass it on to my child. And yeah, during my training, I've been doing all sorts of different things. I like to compete, so I've done some powerlifting, I've done a lot of strongman, which is probably my favorite, and more recently I've been doing some Olympic lifting. I think to instruct them, it would be useful for the people to know, that we've gone through the process ourselves. So you both spoke about body weight gain, but what about totals? So when I started, I remember, in particular, my press, I remember desperately trying to rep out a 35 kilogram press with these skinny chicken-ass noodle arms that I had when I first started. Since then, I've gained almost 40 kilograms of body weight. I can now press 106. That's my best. My best squat is 227. My best deadlift is 270. My best bench is 145. I've competed in powerlifting 3 times, strongman twice, and Olympic lifting once. So, I've gone through the process. I've done my novice LP, and I've done a lot of intermediate training. Byron.
Yeah. And also, Jack, in context, your age as well. I think that's useful to know.
Oh, yes, I'm a child. I'm an infant child. I started when I was 16. I'm now 27. So most that training has really been in the prime time of life.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I did go mad. I actually did go mad. I was an appropriate candidate for go mad. I was an 18-year-old. I was skinny as shit, and I did go mad for like 6 months. That is not to say that you, dear listener, should do go mad, but I am one of the people who fell into that category, and so that's my sort of training context. That's where I come from.
Good. All right. Yeah. Do you want me to go next, Carl? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Shoot.
Sure. So I didn't find on my journey, I didn't discover this thing called barbells until I was damn near in my late 30s. So I was over 35 when I found the system. I'm you push him into my mid 40s now. bearing that in mind, I don't think I've had too much of a bad run. I am still hitting PRs, which is great. So I got my deadlift is up to 216 kg. My squat 200, bench press 140, press 102 kilos. My deadlift should probably be heavier, but for a while I got really obsessed with the rack pull and took that up to 240. Almost forgot the deadlift existed, and now I'm rebuilding my deadlift to remind myself of it. I think once I've rebuilt my deadlift and taken that to, I'm going to say 220 or more, then I think I'm going to renew things like power cleans. I'm sure this will come up at some point in the chat where you're picking with your available time what exercises you do. I'm probably going to put power clean back in and just kind of go back to that for a while. Put that as an emphasis. Yeah, and that's my numbers. That's where I got up to with it, and I'm loving it. I'm very much into that intermediate advanced phase, but my love for training is still there. I think that's one thing I want to get across, and hopefully we'll do a whole podcast on that. Is that just getting to these numbers, I'm not bored yet. I'm not not enjoying it. I'm still feeling the benefits of it and enjoying it. That's the main thing for me. We talk about PRs, and maybe this would be a podcast as well, but for me, the really big PR I want is to train with barbells for the rest of my life. That's the PR I'm after.
Yeah, so I think the reason why I wasn't quick to just say what my best numbers were was because, to me personally, from what my experience of coaching has been and the struggles that a lot of lifters and people on the path of doing starting strength is body weight. It's always fucking body weight. So I'm more quick to tell you that I've gained 50 kilos of body weight naturally, drug-free, over the past 12 plus years. That is way harder than any of the numbers I'm going to tell you that I've done. And to me, the process of eating more, the habits, getting in the kitchen, cooking those meals, or getting your life organized so you hit 200 grams of protein and you do all those things, you sleep 8 hours, you take your creatine, all those things, those habits are way harder than coming into the gym and just adding weight to the bar. That's fucking easy. Like, if all my demands was to just show up and lift weights 3 times a week, oh my God, life would be so easy, which is what it is when you're new to this game. But it's not. When you get to the levels of pushing bigger weights, it's those habits of gaining weight and doing all those things. That's what makes progress and success more linear. And I feel like that is more my biggest accomplishment, is gaining this amount of body weight naturally drug-free. That being said, I can lift some fucking tin. So my best squat, again, these numbers aren't in a competition setting. These are just my best numbers in the gym. I've squatted 275 kilos. I've deadlifted 290 with straps. I've overhead pressed 150 kilos, hopefully a little bit more in a few weeks, or maybe on Friday, who knows. And then my best deadlift is 171 kilos. Best power clean is 120 kilos. I've done 3 or 4 different powerlifting meets. I think I even totaled enough as a 90 kilo lifter to qualify for British, but I didn't want to fucking go to Dover or the Isle of Man, wherever shithole they drag you to do a powerlifting meet. Done a couple of weightlifting meets and loved the weightlifting. In fact, weightlifting is probably my second favorite meet. And then my favorite meet of all is strength lifting, which is what starting strength do. If you're a coach, you get to do this meet, which is squat, overhead press, conventional only deadlifts, and then you weigh out immediately after your deadlift. So I've done all those 3 meets, and then I've done no other like strongman stuff. I've just picked up a few stones and loved it. But yeah, all the barbell sports I've done, but they've been peppered without the 20 years I've been a lifter. And that's the funniest thing about me. I'm pretty big. I lift a lot of weight. And that's pretty much the first thing people always ask is, are you a strongman? Do you compete? Like, because for them, they can't process that being this big and strong is a lifestyle I want to pursue. It's not just, I want to compete. I do this because I fucking love training. And it just so happens when you get this deep down the rabbit hole, lo and behold, you start lifting weights that even powerlifters will come up to me and be like, do you compete? Do you, what we're like, they're just astonished that I like being this strong just to walk around. It's just, yeah, a lot of people struggle to understand that, which is what baffles me more. But again, it shows that disconnect of how powerful strength training is. It's a lifestyle. And if you do everything right, the right people will start looking at you and asking you questions versus you being that weirdo in the corner.
That sounds good. So that's a little bit about each of us. Now you know who you're dealing with.
Yeah, I mean, you know, it's not all just talk. We not only coach this stuff, we've lived it. We do it ourselves. We've changed our own lives doing this stuff for the better, each and every one of us. So when we tell you to do shit on this podcast, you should listen.
Yeah,
I think that will wrap up episode 1, gentlemen. Now, obviously, we're going to have tens of thousands of viewers off the back of this, and all of them are going to want to know where they can find you, where they can get in touch. So, Carl, how can people reach you?
They can reach me at beautifulstrengthgym.com. That is BEA, beautifulstrengthgym.com. I got Instagram, X, Facebook. You can go on my website. That's all where I'm at, beautifulstrengthgym.com.
Byron.
I'm at Strength Revolution Coaching. So Strength Revolution Coaching on Instagram, or just strengthrevolution.org on there. Or if you're on Starting Strength, you can just put my name in there. We should be up on the directory as well, so you can find me through the main Starting Strength page as well. That's an option.
Cool. And my Instagram is Jack_cast-iron-strength. Go and follow me on there. We have a good old fun time. And my website is castironstrength.co.uk. I post blog posts and articles and things like that up on there. So if you want to reach me, you can reach me there. This has been the British Strength Show. Thank you for listening. We'll see you next time.